Welcome to another episode of the Colin Flynn podcast. Diana Bunici is an Irish journalist and reporter who also built up a name for herself presenting an Irish TV show called Elevate for many years on the Irish broadcaster RTE. She also worked in the UK for a while with the BBC.
My name is Diana. I'm an author, journalist and TV presenter.
She's also a writer and author and published a book entitled The Pursuit of Awesome, which was a collection of interviews she did with people who had made their dreams a reality in life and how they did it.
I wanted to write a book for a very long time.
But her own story of how she got to where she is today is equally as fascinating. Before moving to Ireland, Diana grew up in rural Moldova, where she had barely any electricity and no running water.
We had maybe 2 hours of electricity every evening. The toilet was in the back garden.
And in this interview, Diana opens up about the huge sacrifice her parents made, leaving their highly qualified jobs in Moldova to move to Ireland to become cleaners, looking for a better life for their children.
I know that was very hard for them to leave behind not only family, friends, our home, but also their profession, basically their whole identity.
And she remembers how a young Diana was trying to fit in school in a completely new country.
So I was so distraught because I just felt like they don't want me here because I'm weird and I'm foreign and I speak a different language and they don't understand me.
And then when she started working towards her dream job, being told that she wasn't good enough.
That you're never going to work in TV. You need to calm down, you need to slow down, you need to lower the tone.
But Diana persevered, she never gave up, and now she shares her story, as well as talks about her recent engagement to Steve Garrigan, the lead singer of the band Kodaline.
I'm really proud that we have been able to make it work because it was really difficult, at times.
This is the Colin Flynn podcast, and my guest today is Diana Bunici. And here she is now, all the way live from Ireland in high definition, coming to your screens. Diana Bunici, how are you doing?
Hi, I'm good, thank you. Sorry for the darkness around me.
Yeah, what's going on? Do I need to call the police or something? Have you been kidnapped, or this is like a hostage video?
I'm okay.
You do not have to do
this.
You don't have to do this podcast. We're not forcing you. Where are you at the moment?
In your basement.
No, but seriously, you're in a blackout. Is there a power cut or something?
No, I just have a terrible setup. If you could only see the terrible attempt of a lighting setup behind the laptop, you'd understand. I'm in the spare bedroom.
Look at this.
It's lovely, I promise. It's lovely.
Well, we're going to work with what we have because we're professionals and we work with adversity. So, Diana, it's great to see you again. I haven't seen you. The last time I saw you, you were here in Rome with your boyfriend, now fiance.
Yeah.
You were with Steve.
Woo-hoo.
And before that, though, we met a long time ago back. We were both working in RT in Dublin. You were working in the TV section and I was working over in the radio section. But people were fascinated by you for a number of reasons because you had come in and you were presenting this television show for children called Elevate with Sean and
Ivan.
Sean and Ivan. And brilliant show. How many years did that go on for?
It went on for almost 5 years.
Wow.
So we were live every single day in families' living rooms. I'd say children's living rooms. It was a kids' TV show. Age group 7 to 11. So, really fun and out there. And at the best of times.
Diana, you had never worked in television before this.
No, and it was a real shock to me that I actually got the job. I still am quite shy. I'm good with people one-on-one or in small groups. Put me in a large group, and I think because there's so many more dominant personalities, I just kind of retract and I observe. So I think I was definitely like that still in my teenage years, in my early 20s. So I genuinely do not know how I got that job. It was the biggest shock to me. So it was like an open audition. You could send in a show reel, a little bit about yourself, and then I suppose a few clips if you filmed anything. But I think maybe the thing that got me over the line in the end was that I was the mediator for my co-hosts. because they were quite like loud and full of life. And I was kind of like, hey guys, like chill out. It's going to be okay. Let's keep the energy chill. So I was like the boring big sister.
You were just like, all right, guys. Yeah, just calm it down a bit. But
I was there to level things out.
The amazing thing was that when people learned more about your story and we'll get into this in a second, but where you came from and the country you came from, because you're not from Ireland originally, but the circumstances and to where you got to in a relatively short period of time. And people work all their life trying to get into television or get a daily show on TV. But here you are, you had never worked in television before, and then all of a sudden you're on the biggest channel in the country and you're doing the big afternoon show for children. Was it how many hours live every day?
It wasn't hours live. No,
it wasn't, but it was in between shows.
It was only a few minutes every day. Our show was live for 20 minutes every single day. And although it may sound like a short burst of time, oh my gosh, was it jam-packed. That 20 minutes felt like a minute, but also there was enough content that could have filled an hour.
Because some of some of it was based in the studio, and then some of it you had remote skits that you would record, or an interview in London with a movie star or a singer or something like that. First of all, before I ask you about where you're from, Moldova, and what life was like there, comparing it to coming to Ireland, the job on Elevate, you said you were very shy and you naturally kind of weren't the loud one, and all of a sudden you're on TV every day and you have to perform. Did you enjoy the job?
I loved my job, but I also, looking back, sometimes wish I could have lived in the moment more, because I spent so much time worrying. How am I coming across? Did I say something stupid? What are the people at home going to think? Which is really not a great space to be in when you're really in the prime place that you could be as a TV presenter starting out, because kids TV, you're allowed to make mistakes. In fact, it's what makes it better, you know? Whereas I would really beat myself up if I fluffed over my words or I said the wrong line. It didn't help that we didn't have auto cue. So everything was, you know, you had your cue cards in front of you. And yes, I would have scripted maybe the lines earlier that day, but very much when you're live, you kind of go with the flow of things. You know how that works. And I wasn't always maybe the sharpest with comebacks. So I would always beat myself up, like going off air. I'd be like, why did I say that? Or why didn't I say that? I was just so afraid. You could see it in my eyes, you know? Well, I can when I look back. But like, listen, it was just like, it was basically TV presenting school, but live on air for me.
Yeah,
yeah, exactly.
And that pressure and fear of messing up or making a fool of yourself, did that come from the people who made the show, the producers from RTE, or did that come from your family, or did that come from yourself? Or
yeah, it came from myself, because I wanted to prove almost to myself and to everybody else that I was capable of doing this, because I knew, like, I almost felt like a fraudster at times, or like imposter syndrome. Like, how did I get here? And what if they're going to find me out that I'm really terrible? But no, I had so much support and encouragement from family, from friends, from everyone in RTE. I will say, though, it wasn't a great confidence booster. I did, so my voice, you know, is, I suppose, I'm female, so sometimes it can be high-pitched. Add a bit of stress into the situation, and I get to be up there, which is kind of was what was happening in our dry runs before we ever went live. And they set me up with like a voice coach to do a little bit of training. And I guess this man chose the tough love route, because he was like, your voice is so high pitched that you're never going to work in TV. You need to calm down, you need to slow down, you need to like lower the tone.
Wow. This is what the voice coach told you. You'll never work in TV because of your voice.
No, he was like, you won't succeed. And I remember leaving that room, going back to my desk in my office in Young People's, in the Young People's department where all the children's TV came out of. And literally
it's like from someone who worked in RT, that's so typical RT. You're having a great day and someone brings you into a room and is like, listen, you're never going to succeed in this business. Now go back out to
never going to succeed.
Go back out to Young People's TV and have a great day.
Make TV. But I just remember going back to my desk and trying so hard to hold back the tears, because I really just wanted, I had this opportunity and I wanted to hold on to it. I didn't want to risk losing it. And reality was I wasn't going to lose it over the fact that my voice maybe went a little bit squeaky when I was stressed. But in my head, because I was so hard on myself. This was it. I believe this man. Bearing in mind, this is before we ever went live for the first show. Yeah. This was like a week before we went live.
Did you try and lower your voice then, or were you going in and, hey kids, welcome to the program. I'm Diana Bunici.
I think even if I tried to lower my voice, I was so stressed in myself that it was never going to happen. Also, when I did lower my voice, I carried myself differently, and then that didn't feel natural to me. I also was like, I'm here to present children's TV, not like the 6 o'clock news. So I just kind of tried to find the balance of how can I lower the tone, but also be myself. And in the end, just my voice kind of leveled itself out because my stress levels went down lower.
It's interesting, just that turmoil in your mind, I guess, of not wanting to fail, being told that you won't have a career in television because of your voice. And then I know in RT, the short-term contracts. So
yeah.
You were like going, what, just a few months at a time?
Oh, so we went from September to June every year, and then we broke off for 2-3 months.
And they wouldn't tell you, I guess, that you were coming back until the last minute, or you wouldn't be guaranteed at the end that the next contract is coming for the next season.
We kind of kept our fingers crossed that we would, and we had a good feeling. There was never really a feeling of that we're not coming back on air. And the year that we stopped making the show, we knew that we would be stopping making the show that December. So it was never like a shock that it was ending. We were treated really nicely because we knew come September, we'd be back. But of course, like there was always that little bit of, well, what if we're not? What do I do with myself then? Because it was also a tricky situation because although you're breaking for 2-3 months, technically you're still a children's TV presenter for the national broadcaster. So it's not like you can go off and do all sorts of like weird experimental stuff or like, you know, you just always had to bear in mind that whatever it is you're doing, you're still representing the national broadcaster in the capacity of a children's TV presenter. So I just felt that pressure, and it might sound silly, but at the time it was everything to me.
Of course.
And
it was your identity, because all of a sudden, you're Diana Bunici, an immigrant who's come to Ireland, but then you're a television star and you're all over TV every day and you're being invited on chat shows as well and you're in the newspapers. So did you feel like it was your identity in a way, like this was you? This was everything about you?
It definitely became my identity. I think I always and it's something that I've been working on, but I was always kind of defined, I suppose, by my career. And it's how I saw myself as well. Like, I'm Diana Bunici, the career girl. I'm Diana Bunici, the journalist. I'm Diana Bunici, the children's TV presenter. But I suppose more so than the TV presenter or whatever other title it was like the Moldovan girl on TV, the Moldovan girl who is a journalist. So those two things tied in together seemed to become my identity. And I was very aware that I was representing, Moldovans, Eastern Europeans. And for some reason, people were ignorant enough to think that my foreign name would stop me, having a chance. And actually now, that's probably the most exciting part of me, the fact that I have, what I need in terms of what I have to offer.
Yeah.
Something a little bit different. It's a little bit exotic. But at the time, it was seen as like, oh,
and also
near you.
And also you can argue that now we're facing this huge immigration crisis around the world, where people are moving the whole time because of different situations. And even in Ireland, we have so many Ukrainians living now because of the war. But someone like you, if you're interviewing them or talking to them on a show, you would understand maybe their situation a bit better and be able to have empathy or understand on a level maybe that other presenters wouldn't be able to, because you, in a way, although not escaping war, but you made that journey as well, looking for a better life. So
exactly.
Yeah, you're from Moldova, Eastern Europe. Just remind us, where is Moldova? What are who are your neighbors back home?
My neighbors. Our neighbors back home are Romania, the Ukraine, and Russia, I guess. We're really far east.
And it was 1996 you left Moldova. What age were you when you left with your parents?
I was 8.
You were 8.
We came to Ireland.
Wow.
Yeah, we came to Ireland.
And is this true? Because I know you made a documentary when you went back home after 10 years, a decade, and you relinked with some of your family. But when you were on TV, and I was like, is this for show or is this real? Like, you grew up with no electricity and like a toilet out in the backfield, no running water in the house?
It was like 1950s Ireland, but in the 90s. Yeah, that's how we grew up. Our village has come like a long, long way now. It's definitely caught up with the times. There's been a lot of investment into it. We now have electricity. We now, I believe, have running water. I say this, I haven't been actually back to Moldova in 10 years. It seems to be every 10 years I make the trip, which is kind of funny. So I'm going this June.
Oh, wow.
But I'm actually excited to see how much it's come on. But back then anyway, because Moldova used to be part of the USSR, when it gained independence, it was cut off from a lot of things. Electricity, gas, all these things that are essential to kind of keep you going, I guess. So yeah, we had maybe like 2 hours of electricity every evening. We had no running water. We got our water from wells. The toilet was in the back garden. It was just a very basic, simple life. Very different to, I suppose, the life that we have here. But it was no means a worse life. The reason my parents wanted to leave is because they wanted to give me opportunities, I suppose, that they didn't have. Also, they just wanted a little bit of security. And at the time, things were very unstable.
Your parents, what did they work at in Moldova? What were their jobs?
My mom was a doctor in the emergency room. And my dad was an engineer mechanic.
Wow.
So they had really good jobs. They studied really hard to get their degrees. And it was, I know it was, they don't talk about it much because they're proud people. And they say that they have no regrets because they did it for me and my brother and they would never change that. But, you know, I know that was very hard for them to leave behind not only family, friends, our home, but also like their profession, basically their whole identity really is what they had to leave behind. The person that they were and everything they knew, they had to put aside, come to Ireland and start completely afresh. Like my mom didn't get to work as a doctor again. My dad didn't get to work as an engineer mechanic again. It's not a unique story. So many people have done it. But
what did they work at when they came to Ireland, or what jobs did they pick up?
Whatever jobs they could get. So my mom was a cleaner for a while. Then my brother was born. When she could go back to work, she worked in a supermarket at the checkout. Over time, then she went and did a beauty therapist course. So she opened up her own beauty salon. Then she opened up a small recruitment agency. She's now involved in the Moldovan embassy and helps kind of the community and many things kind of on that side of things. My dad worked in construction. My dad worked basically nonstop. That man probably slept about 3 hours a night.
Wow.
Less, because there was a small baby in the house. So in the daytime, he would work in construction, whatever, jobs he could pick up. When one job ended, he would move on. And in the evenings, he worked in a takeaway restaurant.
And Diana, it strikes me when you're telling the story that for your parents to do that, it is such a selfless act of love towards you and your brother who would later come, but for the family unit, because most of us now today, of course, are self-obsessed and career-obsessed, and, it has become our identity. Like I lived in New York for 5 years, and you meet someone and the first thing they ask you is, oh, what's your name? Colin, what do you do? It defines you.
Yeah.
And if you have an ordinary job, that's great. But especially in the United States, you're judged by the position, the level you have, the career, the salary. So for your parents who, although coming from a poor country, especially back then, Moldova, it sounds like they weren't doing too bad in that your mom was a doctor and your dad was an engineer. So they were kind of in the upper class. They weren't the poorest of the poor, I'm sure, in Moldova. But for them to sacrifice that and say, even though I worked so hard for this degree and this job, I'm going to go to Ireland, and your mom going from being a doctor in the emergency room to being a cleaner, like how many of us would do that nowadays, would be too selfish. But
I know
it's incredible,
phenomenal, really. Yeah, and I respect and appreciate so much the sacrifices that they made. But it was definitely something that I was very aware of all throughout my teenage years. Earlier, I was saying that I was quite a good child and teenager. I kind of did what I was told, but I did what I was told because I was aware how much was sacrificed for us to be in this position, to be here, to be able to have this kind of life. Let's not forget that back in 1996, Ireland wasn't as multicultural. There were not that many people from other countries living here. So we definitely stood out like, sore thumbs.
Especially Moldova. Where are you from, lads? Moldova. Right.
But like people had never heard of Moldova. Like, thank God for the Eurovision. They put Moldova on the map. But literally people had never heard of it before. Like I remember someone going, is that in Cork? Like legitimate question.
South Cork. They keep going as south as you can, get on a boat, they get on a plane. But Moldova haven't won the Eurovision yet, have they? Have they won?
No.
Not yet.
They've done well, though. They've done quite well.
Okay, but they haven't won it yet. That'll be your next gig at the Eurovision in Moldova. But
yes.
Are your parents, their family was there, so they left their family as well, like their parents when they came. And why Ireland? Why did they pick Ireland?
They had a friend here who was like, not too bad. It's safe. It's an independent country. It's stable enough. Education system is good. Come over and try it. Come for a year, see what happens.
That's the best way of describing Ireland. It's stable enough.
No, as in, there was not going to be war, civil unrest or war or anything like that. And for them, that was important because Moldova had just gained independence. It had been cut off from so many supplies,
And you were 8 years of age, Diana. Could you speak any English at all when you arrived in Ireland?
Not really, no. Like, hello. Hello.
Hey, and then you went to school. You went straight into Irish school.
Yeah, so I remember actually the first day we went to, so I lived in Dublin city centre. And the first day we went to school to see if I could get a place, I clearly did not know what was going on. And we were sent off. We were walking back home and I started crying. And my dad was like, what's wrong? And I'm like, they don't like me. They won't accept me. And my dad was like, no. Everything's okay. They want you to come back on Monday so you can start the week afresh. So I was like so distraught because I just felt like they don't want me here because I'm weird and I'm foreign and I speak a different language and they don't understand me. But so that's how desperate I was even from like that first stage to be accepted,
Did you ever see your parents in moments of weakness or you see them?
They tried to not express that in front of me, actually. But you always sensed it, Children are very intuitive.
Yeah.
So I think I definitely sensed it. I sensed it more when it came to, I suppose, phone conversations with their parents.
Oh, yeah.
And over time, my grandparents getting ill, them feeling the burden and the guilt that they're not nearby. Then my granddad passed away not long after, maybe a year and a half into us living here. So those were the moments where obviously I saw it. It was impossible for them to hide.
Did you feel at home? Like I often wonder this when an immigrant comes to another country and like that, your parents are Moldovan talking to the folks back home. You're there, your brother was born, not clicking in school immediately or too well like everyone else. I mean, do you feel like it is home or were you the whole time longing to go back to Moldova? Or were you thinking, this is great, this is an exciting new life, I like this country?
Honestly, I'm really lucky that my brother was born not long after we came here because that changed the dynamic. And it was such an excitement for my mom, for my dad, for me. Like there's an eight-year age gap. So he was born a couple of months into us being here. And like my mom was doing cleaning jobs like 8 and 9 months pregnant, like she really up until the very end was working hard to save money to be able to pay rent and stuff. So I feel like his arrival changed a lot of things and it made me feel less lonely. If I didn't have a sibling, I can't imagine what it would have been like because he became our world for all of us. Like the world through the eyes of a child is so special, and to see them like discover the world and explore the world, like that for me brought me so much joy. I literally was obsessed with my brother. I would like go to dance class and come home and he'd be like 7 months old sitting in his little bouncy thing and I'd be like showing him my dance moves. Like I'd be doing fashion shows and dressing him up like the poor kid.
But you know what? There's something beautiful about that, because I remember noticing that about you as well. When we were pals in RTE, you would, see, in your 20s, you would hang out with your brother a lot. You would go to events
Yes.
with him. You would, and I just thought there was something really nice about that and special, that you had a
Yeah,
sense of how important family is.
sure, to me, but probably to him, I was a pain in the bum.
No.
He'd be like, leave me alone. You're so cool. I think I definitely was a burden to him when I worked in RTE. I
No.
was embarrassing.
When now when you got the job then on television, fast forward to you getting the job, were your parents very proud?
Oh, yeah. Like, oh, exceptionally so. But I don't think it mattered what it is that I was doing. I think they would have been proud anyway. But I think that it was seen as such because they'd heard it too. Like, she's not going to make that's not never going to happen for her. She should choose a more realistic career, you know? So they obviously had their doubts deep inside as well. What if this doesn't happen for her? What if she, what if she gets really upset that this dream that she's chasing isn't a possibility? But again, they never expressed that. They were always so positive, and anything you want to do, like anything is possible. We'll help you along the way. We'll ferry you to whatever audition and back, and we'll wait for like to get my job in RTE. I was here when I sent my application, and then we didn't hear back for a few weeks. We had a family trip planned, so we went to uh, France actually, and then we went to Monaco because my auntie and uncle were celebrating a big wedding anniversary. And it was while I was there that I got a call back from RTE asking me to do an audition, like literally 3 days later or something like that. Bearing in mind I'm in Monaco, my dad was like, no problem. Let's book some flights. We're going home. So me and him flew home. He drove me to RTE. I did my audition. We went back to the airport and flew back to France or to Monaco. I can't remember where exactly we were the first time. And then I got another call a few days later saying, you're through to the next round. My dad was like, no problem.
Wow.
Let's get a flight. So we literally flew home twice from that holiday just so I could audition. And each time, like, he insisted on being there with me because he
Ah.
was like, so like I literally had like unbelievable support from them.
It's the name of the game all over the world, that these TV shows come and the TV shows go, and
Yeah.
they change the schedule and they try new people, and it happens everywhere. Were your parents disappointed when they ended Elevate, the kids show, when they were going to replace it with something else?
No, I don't think so. They knew that I was ready to kind of spread my wings a little bit. I think the last year that I worked on that show, I definitely felt a little bit frustrated. I was trying to bang on doors and say, like, I want to make this documentary. I want to make this report. I had a lot of opportunities actually come my way my first few years working on that kids show, probably spurred on by the fact that the Moldovan background, offering kind of a different flavor, I suppose, on screen. But I wasn't allowed to do them because I was a children's TV presenter.
Do you regard it as a poison chalice in a way, that you get this great opportunity to be on kids television, but because of that, you're typecast into it and you're not allowed to break out of the mold? So
A little bit,
yeah.
a little bit, because then, the critique was she so nice? How come you put her to make, more serious documentaries? She's so nice. And but yeah, it just was difficult to get people to give me that chance. In saying that, like during my time in children's TV, I got amazing opportunities. I got to travel to Moldova and make a documentary that was broadcast not only on RTE2 but RTE1 as well, about my story and how I ended up on TV in the first place. Where did I come from? What was my life like before?
Your documentary Moldova, that was going back, you had left, so it was 10 years after, and it was showing people what your life was like in Moldova. And you'd reconnected with some of your old friends, and it was quite emotional. Some bits of it were people you were very good friends with as a child you hadn't seen, and you had gone and created this whole new life. And they must have been like, this is unbelievable, Diana. You went and became a TV star in another part of the world. And you have electricity and running water. I'm joking, but I'm laughing. But I mean, they must have thought this is, wow, you've gone to Hollywood.
Yeah, I mean, the funny, like, I never, like, to sound so weird to say, I never changed, but I was always the same person. The person that left Moldova, I was still the same person. Yes, I learned to speak a new language. Yes, I adapted to a new culture. Yes, I was wearing different clothes. And yes, I had running water, electricity, and all those things. But I was still the same me. And that's the thing that they thought was really funny.
Do you miss it, the world of television? I know you stayed in journalism and you moved into print, and now did you miss it?
I miss the excitement of live TV, yeah. And sometimes I miss the variety. But I mean, I really feel like the start of my career was just almost like the dream, really. Like for any broadcaster or wannabe broadcaster, that was the dream. So I kind of knew that eventually the cloud would burst and I would be back to reality. For some people, it doesn't, and they continue going up and up and up in TV. For me, I was just aware of that. A lot of my, say, friends in college spend years trying to find their place in the industry that they were, focused on. Not all of them actually ended up in journalism, but whatever they were chasing, they spent years kind of finding their place in that area and embedding themselves. I happened to have this job before I even graduated my final year in college. So I knew that eventually this little bubble would burst and then I'd be back to square one trying to figure it out. So like there's positives and there's obviously minuses for it having happened that way. So yeah, I just see it as like a very unique, very cool experience. And I definitely have a lot of nostalgia for that time, for working in TV, but also the industry has changed so much that if I was to chase that now, I know it would never be what it was. And I'm kind of okay with that, And also I love what I do. There's so much variety in my job now that you can kind of incorporate, broadcasting. You can really be anything now, can't you? You can wear many hats. And that's kind of the beauty of it.
As someone who...
But yeah, I do miss it.
As someone who worked in RT for so many years and it was such a part of your life, when you look at RT today and the various scandals and the budgets that are shrinking and shrinking because people aren't paying their license fee, what do you think when you see what's happening to RT?
Yeah, it's a shame. But I don't want to comment on scandals or anything like that. But it is a shame because it's our national broadcaster. It has an important place, in society. It tells Irish stories from Irish people, but also many different people that call Ireland home. And it's a shame that it's just a shame. It's a shame that it's not. I don't know if it was ever.
Dana, they were right. She's too nice. I wanted some names here. I was looking for some names. I want heads on a plate. Hey, Dana, with your job that you're doing now, you love the variety of it. What is your hope and dream for the future?
As much as I love my job, I obviously, I hope to start my own business someday. I would love to go and write novels. Like I want to write creatively as well as doing what I do. I would love to step back into TV in some shape or form. I'd love to make documentaries. There's lots of things I want to do. But I'm at that point where I'm like, where do you find the time in the day to do it all, And I'm always in awe of people. Like I say, I want to write a book. There's so many journalists who work their full-time job and then at lunchtime or in the evenings, are working away on their laptop, like writing their novel. I'm like, how do they do it? Because I'm like, it just seems so hard to find the time. So that's something that I'm trying to work on better, finding the time. And if the time isn't there, making the time. And even now, to young people, like you literally can be anything you want to be because when I lived in London after I left RTE, that was like my next chapter. I went and tried to find a job in the industry there, which is way easier said than done. And I was lucky. I had a few little freelance gigs. I definitely had some really big meetings, but London is its own thing. And, they have their own people there with, I think the stumbling block that I found in London, they were like, you have this amazing experience that some people here don't have, but they have a really big social platform because they came from X reality show. So even though you have the experience, they're going to get the jobs because more people know their faces. So that was a very harsh reality that I had to accept when I moved to London. So I utilized that time instead to get a passion project off the ground, which was, I am going somewhere with this, by the way. I'm not just like rambling on about London. By the way, I also moved here. No, while I was there, I was like, okay, well, if I have this free time that, more time on my hands than I ever thought that I would have moving there, why don't I use it to like make my book come to life? So I published a book called The Pursuit of Awesome, which was basically what I was saying, encouraging young people to pursue their dreams through the stories of 50 high-profile people who pursued their dreams. People who, I suppose, had to experience their own adversities or were so far away from the world that they ended up in. And how did they get there? And what did they do? And what were the highs and lows that they experienced?
That is so cool. I remember you publishing that book. And what an achievement to put together a book, to write it and to assemble it and then to publish it.
It's great on paper. It doesn't make you rich. Not that I'm chasing wealth, but it's a publishing industry. It's funny because sometimes I'm like, oh yeah, I wrote this book once, and I'm almost like, but it didn't sell millions of copies. But yeah, you're right. It is a great achievement, and it's something I'm really proud of. But sometimes I shy away from even mentioning it because I'm like, but it's not like it won, bestseller awards or anything. But
you don't need to win the book or a prize. Yeah, because so many people talk about it or have an idea for a book, but they very rarely do it because of the time involved and the investment. But you did it, so that's another one of your great achievements.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. It's not like I have a massive long list now, Colin.
You do.
But it is one thing that I'm definitely very proud of because it took so much work to get it off the ground. To convince a publisher to publish a book that you haven't written a single page of, that was hard, but I got there.
Listen, exactly. I work in the media. I know what it's like. And so when I see the things you've done, you have been hugely successful. And I know you're being humble about it now, but it's something you should be proud of. And finally, before I let you go, because you've been very good with your time, Dana, I have to say congratulations and celebrations.
Thanks. What are you congratulating me for?
Oh, come on. You're engaged.
I am engaged, yeah. Thank you. Yeah, it's exciting. It's been a long time coming, as Steve would say, and all of our families.
Your boyfriend Steve, he is the front man, the singer in that great band, Kodaline.
Yeah, he's in that great band, Kodaline, yeah.
You've been dating for how long?
10 years.
10 years. Put a ring on it, but now he has put a ring in it. So how long have you been engaged? When did he propose?
Only a couple of months. He proposed on the 23rd of December, 23.
Do you have a date set for the wedding?
It'll be spring 25. That's all I know.
That's all you know. And how are you feeling about it? How are you feeling going into married life?
Good. I'm feeling good. It's obviously something that I wanted to happen. And it was the next obvious step after such a long time together. We are best friends. We're very different, but we also complement each other in many ways. And, sometimes I can get very serious and his kind of goofy, silly side brings me back down to earth. Likewise, sometimes he can get very anxious and caught up in himself, and kind of the happy-go-lucky side of me kind of brings him back down to earth. Yeah, I'm excited to be married. Because
I'm sure it's difficult too in a way, because he's got his touring schedule and he has to travel to different parts of the world with the band, and that's where the money is made nowadays in the industry, the touring and the gigs. So, but what an adventure you guys have ahead of you.
Yeah, it's going to be good. We're well used to being apart, really, because obviously in the last 10 years, he's been away. I lived away on different occasions, but we always made it work. We always found time for each other. And yeah, I'm really proud that we have been able to make it work, because it was really difficult, at times. Just, being so far away from the person that you love. And yeah, you just make it work when you care about somebody. And funnily enough, we met in RTE. So
there you go.
It all comes full circle.
It all happened in RTE, and I met you guys and we had a lovely dinner here in Rome, and he's a great guy, lovely guy. So I was delighted when I saw that you got engaged. And Diana, congratulations on all your success, to what your parents did for you and the family. You're just a great success story of determination, of hard work, and just being an all-around great person. So thanks for being on the podcast with me.
I was going to say, immigrants aren't so bad, you know?
Nah,
we're not so bad.
Moldovans aren't that bad. Hey, Dana, thank you so much.
All right. Thank you so much, Colin. And see you in Rome soon, hopefully.